Vice President, HR, FENA Limited, dynamic, dedicated, and determined, seasoned senior HR professional with a proven track record of established professionalism, HR capability development, and natural leadership with over 20 plus years of enriched HR leadership experience. Warm welcome. Ms. Sharmila Thakur Sharma, HR Leader Head, Human Capital, Bureau Veritas, a global human professional with a multi-dimensional background in HR leadership role across industries with a multi-geography presence. Had the opportunity of leading transformation initiatives like organization, diagnostic, global compensation, performance development programs, and many more. A very warm welcome. Huge round of applause, please. Mr. Anirudh Narayan, Regional HR Head, Reliance Consumer Products. Mr. Anirudh is a passionate, highly energetic person who follows a multi-dimensional approach to learning. He believes in the spirit of getting better day by day. Currently, Regional HR Head, North India for Reliance Retail. A very warm welcome. Mr. Sachin Tiwari, Vice President, Human Capital, Pharmart. Over 19 years of work experience across diverse industries like outsourcing, telecommunication, retail, e commerce, automotive, agri tech, across gamuts of functions in HR, resource strategist with a lot of energy and drive. A very warm welcome. I now request our students to welcome the delegates with a planter.
Check.
First of all, Mr. Pratik Rastogi. I request Sejal to hand over the planter to sir. Huge round of applause, please. I request Ria to welcome Ms. Simin Askari. I request Palak to welcome Ms. Suman Verma. I request Sejal to welcome Dr. Nirmal Singh Rana. I request Himanshi to welcome Ms. Sharmila Thakur Sharma. I request Kriti to welcome Mr. Anirudh Narayan. And I request Aditi to welcome Mr. Sachin Tiwari. Over to the moderator now.
Check. Good afternoon, friends. First of all, I would like to thank the management of Jaipuria Institute of Management, Ghaziabad, for inviting us to participate in 8th Corporate Summit today. As we all know, the theme for the summit is driving strategic change for organizational growth in fast-moving consumer goods and consumer durables, fintech, and entrepreneurship. Well, driving strategic change is the process of leading an organization through a significant shift in direction or business practices. The fast-moving consumer goods and fast-moving consumer durable sectors are highly competitive and constantly evolving. The growth and development in these sectors require a careful and well thought out approach and strategy. This may involve changes in the organization's product line, distribution channels, marketing strategies, or production processes, so on and so forth. Well defined talent strategy, effective communication, and engagement with employees, customers, business partners are also crucial for successful change management in FMCG and FMCD sector. Having said that, folks, it's time for us to begin our discussion on developing talent pipelines in fast moving consumer goods and consumer durable sector. The objective of this panel discussion would be to discuss, explore, and highlight current industry practices on talent strategies, developing talent pipeline, succession planning, upskilling of employees through learning and development activities, and other best HRD practices in FMCG and FMCD sector. Thank you all, the panelists, for sparing valuable time from your busy schedule and for being with us today for the insightful discussion. I request the audience to park your question for the question and answer session, which we have planned to hold in the end to ensure smooth, uninterrupted, and enriching discussion. So, coming to the panel discussion, the secret of success for any organization is the quality of people it has. As we all know, the basic role of human resource department in an organization is to provide right people for the right job at the right time and cost. I request Ms. Simon to kindly enlighten the audience on what are the biggest challenges that FMCG companies face in attracting and retaining top talent.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nirmal, and thank you, Jaipur Institute, for having us over. This is a very interesting and a very relevant topic that you have chosen, especially in the FMCG sector and the FMCD sector. I assume it's going to be the same thing. We live in very interesting times. There is always a dearth of talent, and there is always a fight for talent that we are constantly trying to sort of get into our different organizations. Getting the right person with the right skill set at the right time for the right role is a challenge that majorly most organizations sort of face. FMCG is no different from any other. The role of HR basically starts from how to actually attract such talent, how to engage with them, how to onboard them, how to develop that talent, and how to retain it at the end of the day. What we require is people who are productive and who are able to contribute to the businesses. In the FMCG sector, there are numerous challenges. The major of them, I would say, would be related to the kind of talent that we require and the scarcity of such talent. You are a management institute. You have a lot of students I can see who are part of this, conversation today. Unfortunately for us, finding the talent which is employable, finding the talent with the right skill set is a big challenge. We know that there is a big, a lot of unemployment in the country. However, the focus probably on employability of such talent is a little missing. And therefore, it's for institutes like yours to focus on such things. There are very, I would say, focused requirements that FMCG sector has in terms of the technical talent when it comes to, say, supply chain management, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to even production for that matter. And that scarcity of talent is one of the biggest challenges that we face here. The second, of course, is competition. There are numerous FMCG companies, and there is always a fight for the best. So whenever the talent is, with the right skill set, there will always be people who are wooing after that. The compensations or the lack of thereof, I think, is one of the other challenges. HR professionals are constantly trying to reinvent the way they try to attract people, especially youngsters, with packages that are more attractive. But we cannot throw money at the problem at all times. So we have to think outside the box and figure out what is it that is going to make young people like you stick in an organization. And therefore the challenge of developing talent comes next, which is how are you developing that talent, how are you training them, what are the skill sets, are you looking at the future? And I think today HR professionals need to be that strategic partner to the business, where it is not just the present that we are working for, but what is our organization going to look like several years ahead is what we are going to be working on. And therefore developing talent, making sure that future skills are available within the organization is another challenge. I'm sure, Dr. Nirmal, that all of our panelists here are going to be talking about the many challenges that we are facing and what are we doing to develop that. And I leave it here for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Simin. It was a, I think, very loud and clear message to the, particularly the students of the management studies here, that it's not the academic degrees what we acquire from the colleges that lead us to a job, but it is the that instinct of passion, and that you want to do something passionately about in your career and grow. So if you have that skill and that mindset in you, you will succeed in your career, and that's what the FMCG companies are looking at. Today, diversity and inclusion is a big buzzword. Also, we hire people from diverse sources, maybe from the campus hiring, maybe from other job portals through consultants, or from competitor companies or the other companies. So my question is to Mr. Anirudh, how can FMCG companies ensure that they attract the diverse range of candidates to their talent pipeline? Mr. Anirudh.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. That's the technical things that would keep on happening. So first of all, thanks a lot for to the Jaipuriya Institute of Management for inviting us all for such an important topic, driving the strategic change. When I talk about the diversity part of it, I would first come to the question why diversity, why it's something which is very much important and why everyone keeps on talking about it. The organizations today have the diversity inclusion heads all around, and which have a specific, clearly major agenda on how different perspectives can be brought into the organizations. And why are these perspectives very much important? Because with perspectives, there comes the drive to change the organization in different ways. Okay, if we just look at a certain specific set of community or a gender to drive the organization, obviously we'll lack on the perspective, we'll lack on the gap of understanding on different things. Hence, the question on diversity becomes very much relevant for not just for the FMCG industry, but for all the industries that are around. Okay. Uh, I come from Symbiosis Center for Management Human Resource Development. I did my MBA in HR from that college. And FMCG was very well sought after industry in my campus. Absolutely, everyone kept on thinking, can I get into that organization or not? And with the diversity agenda, there were few females, few fellow students who got into the FMCG companies. Very much happy, very interested, excited, and a few of them left the organization in a while. Now, the reason why did they left, why reached out to them, understood why did they left that organization. That's because there are certain challenges around that. Okay, there is a unconscious bias that exists around such unconscious bias that exists in the organizations, as well as around the policies that are being framed. They're not very much suitable to support the diversity and inclusion factor. Hence, that transformation and that strategic change is very much required. Okay, and hence when I come to the part of attracting the talent, diverse talent to the pipeline in the FMCG industry, is very much important that we first battle the unconscious bias that the organizations have. Clearly talking about that, when we talk about the frontline sales force and when we're going to hire talent, then both from the organization as well as from the candidates, there is a fact that clearly comes out that the frontline sales is a very crude environment, a very raw environment where there is a lot of struggle and there is a lot of legwork that is required. Hence, is the diverse candidate ready to be a part of that? They take a step back on that front because the organizations are also not promoting that factor. Hence, it is very important to remove that unconscious bias at the first moment and also to frame policies in a very well in the right structure, policies that clearly support the diversity inclusion. I would want to bring in an anecdote from the last organization that I had. So I was working with Titan Company Limited as their HR business partner, and that was more of a retail setup. Yet there was a watches trade setup that too existed. So we got one empty from the 2020 batch, and I got that idea and pushed that idea to my regional business head that why don't we have her in the watches trade division? And the first question was why do we want her to be in the watches trade division? Let's get her to the Tanishq retail stores or the watches retail store, and she will very much do better in that because she's had that internship experience too from the same. So we wanted to bring in that dynamic change, bring in that change in the existing channel that even though females can be a part of it and can bring in a lot of a transformation around the watches trade channel. So when she joined the watches trade channel, that too in Varanasi, okay, there were multiple challenges that came. Challenges around the safety, security, the uh, employee that we had, the challenges around the travel policies, etc. Hence, then the organization got receptive enough about the fact that there was a reason around the policies and the unconscious bias that existed. Hence, we wanted a transformation around that part itself. So then the entire diversity inclusion policy also got reframed with the support on how the travel policies can be enhanced in a sense that they can provide cabs to the female employees for travel. And when that got into action, absolutely, she was one of the top performing ASMs in that territory itself. She was awarded as the best ASM for the UP territory in the next 1.5 year. Absolutely, that brings in the confidence to the organization. And when I said that the diversity is not the issue on this attracting diversity is not just a talent, is not just a issue from the organization part itself. It's also an issue from the candidate part. Okay, so there's an unconscious bias and as well as the policy reframing that is very much required. Okay, now when moving to the next part of it, the practices which very much required to attract the diverse talent in the organization. Obviously, uh, employee referrals play a very pivotal role uh, across the different levels and across the different roles. If the employer referral policies can be reframed in a sense that you provide an extra incentive to the employees on referring the diverse candidates to the organization, absolutely works a lot well. Also motivates the employee to refer such employees and brings in that commitment from both the candidate that's been referred and the employee who's referred that candidate and the retention of that candidate for a long period of time. Okay, and then there is the career development that we can bring in and the talent acquisition practices that we can reform. So at Reliance Consumers, since we've started officially, we've started it last year operation in the last year, and we've reframed the policy in a sense that when we go for campus hiring, we're ensuring that we are bringing the diverse talent in our frontline sales force too. So there exists a challenge at the moment in the frontline sales force that you wouldn't get a lot of female candidates in the frontline sales force because of multiple things that are there. So why not we bring in that change right away? So we've initiated that change by hiring the diverse candidates from the different campuses all across India, and we're ensuring that we bring in that kind of a mentoring to them so that they're hesitant because even they are hesitant to be a part of that raw environment. So when they are getting to the field, they are being mentored by the AS manager, the sales manager on each and every front, and they also become very comfortable to the environment on how and what is expected out of them. Okay, and when they are very much comfortable and when even their limitation on being a part of the frontline sales force gets eliminated, obviously they become a part of the frontline sales force for a longer period of time. period of time, and they also see a great career development that exists. So why not I have my sales executives as in a from a diverse talent pool, who moves to the area sales manager, sales manager. Absolutely, they bring in a lot of value in that sense. Okay. And then the next part of attracting the talent also comes from the employer branding that we do. Okay. Branding in all the sense, in all the levels, whether it's about branding of your policies, the practices that you bring in, and how you're supporting the diverse candidates. So this is very much required. And absolutely, I again go back to the first point that I made. Attracting the diverse talent would absolutely bring in a lot of new perspective, freshness in the industry, and it's not specifically limited to the FMCG industry, but all across different industries.
Thank you, Anirudh. I think you explained it very elaborately. So it is acceptance is one part where organization has to accept the resources from the diverse workforce. Secondly, the policy framework, as you mentioned rightly. And third is giving an opportunity to the diverse workforce across to work in your organization and contribute for the organizational growth. Thank you, Mr. Anirudh, for your inputs.
Dr.
Hiring,
Dr.
yeah,
Nirmal,
yeah, please,
just
you want to add?
I wanted to add to this discussion, and I second your point here. With respect to diversity and inclusion, not only, I mean, it has to be a complete ecosystem, which needs to be, in sync with this for this to, really kickstart or, take off, So when I say the entire ecosystem, that means the right from the organization objective, the diversity inclusion has to be aligned to the organization as objective, and the policies also needs to be aligned towards it. Then only it becomes total proposition. Hello, yeah. It becomes a total proposition where the uh, the topic city and inclusion, becomes holistic in nature when I'm talking about. Otherwise, it becomes more of a paper exercise or an exercise for a kind for to show off as a CSR or something, with the company is trying to do. But if in a real sense, if we want to have it, it has to be the complete ecosystem. Right from the management buy-in is very important for this. It has to be top driven, uh, and also then the entire company policies processes to be towards it. So I totally second your point here.
Thank you, Sachin. Thank you very much for the inputs. Hiring talent with needed skill sets and continuously sharpening them is important for organizational growth and sustenance. So my question is to Sumanji, please tell us, how can FMCG companies create a culture of learning and development to ensure that their employees are equipped with skills needed for the future?
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me here. And I'm actually feeling like a fish out of water with all the HR specialists sitting here. So let me sort of just speak and answer this question like a department head. Because, you in an organization and HR and marketing, HR and sales force interact quite a lot. So let me just come to that. I think I've been hearing all the conversations that happen in the morning, and I was so aligned to what Chairman Sir mentioned about the growing trends of digitization, chat GBT coming, and OpenAIs of the world all there. But very honestly, as a marketing person, I'm sort of digressing a bit and coming back to it. As a marketing person, um, I think what I do is I sell dreams of products that we make. And who do I sell it to? People. So no amount of digital engagement allows me to understand and probe deep into the minds of the consumer. So the best learning ever that you can do about a consumer is when you're out on a market visit and you talk to them you're dealing with consumers and trying to understand that vacant mind space that you need to occupy. So I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time with children or students and consumers and a lot of housewives, because I remember that when I was working with ITC as my account, uh, they would say consumer is not a kaddu, is you and me. So you and me, no digital can trap my mindset and tell me what's happening. So it's very important to know that consumer mind. And I think what I would look for, and any FMCG company would look for, is a passion that emanates when you meet people, passion, the hunger. Because if you don't have that passion and hunger, you're not going to be able to last out. Exactly what he said. Policymakers and HR can do a lot to ease out your life by having your right travel policies, your hotels, and XYZ. But you still have to roll your sleeves and be out there. But what you bring to the table is what is going to make the difference. So for me, the strategic shifts that have to happen will only come from talent. And talent is something which is there. I mean, people like you and me, we are the ones who are bringing it. And how can that passion that you feel for the brand or for the company that you're working in get injected? No amount of HR can come and inject that thing in you. So it has to be, you have to be self driven. So that whole thing of motivating yourself is a key factor and a differentiator that allows people to move up the ladder. And companies can help you to upscale or reskill you, but that's about it. I can just give you a very small anecdote. When I was in advertising and I used to work with beauty, constantly being put to meet the chairmans of organizations, the managing directors, and it was very important. So it was very important that the people who were representing the agency and presenting an idea spoke well. And when you're a kid and you're straight out of college, and that's how I had gone into advertising. My results hadn't come out of graduation, and I was there. And I was working in ITC, which is, still very prim and proper, and they wouldn't like a ragamuffin kind of a person standing right there. Our HR had done a program for which I'm eternally grateful. They had taught us what is public speaking. And I think it's a very important skill set that people need to have. So, in a room, they had put cameras and they asked us to come and speak about anything that we wanted to speak on. It could be about your mother, father, dog, cat, Shah Rukh Khan, anyone, where, you didn't need to be prepared to stand there. And you won't believe it that when we speak we don't realize how we sound, and we also don't know how many gestures we make, and it can be quite disturbing, right? Sometimes people have this thing of saying, you know what I mean, and actually you don't know what you mean, because it's very, very disturbing to sit and hear that. And when they showed the video to us, that day, I think we went back standing in front of the mirror and realizing, my God, I mean, how can any school teach us how to speak? How can anybody else teach us how to speak? But here was a team of HR that had really taught us that, over the next 3 weeks, they were going to conduct classes on public speaking. And I think it was an amazing learning. And today I feel TEDx, TED Talks is a great learning ground. I don't think that any school can teach you how to do a narrative, how to be a storyteller, because I think in life, all of us are storytellers. We're sitting here and telling you a story as well, whether it is an issue of an organization or an issue of a profession. So, coming back to it, and I think that talent is a very important thing. And to be talented, yes, you need to get an exposure. Yes, you need to be getting an experience. experience in doing what you're doing, but a lot of it also comes from self learning. I don't think that anybody was teaching me what is a medicine because I handle a medicine business. But I think because I had worked in advertising and I had worked on many, many different blue chip companies, the freshness that I brought to a legacy brand, which is Hamdard, is that I've done a lot of cross pollination of ideas and learnings, which has come from my own self. I wasn't waiting for somebody else to tell me how to do it. But that could also be because I'm now old and I can manage to transfer learnings from here there. But young kids are very smart, and I think there's a lot of learning to be done. All this digitization and everything is what I learned from my junior team, because they're smart as hell. They know this medium. So for me, digital is a medium. Understanding the data and the analytics and joining the dot is something that really would take marketing to the next level, but that is not where it ends. Our feet on street, understanding the consumer, touching their heart is what is going to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumanji. Uh, from her answer, I could drive two aspects of it. Number one, that skill is ever evolving, but is today may vanish tomorrow, or new skill set will come in future. Second is, it is not only the organization's responsibility to train and develop employees, but this is also equally self-responsibility also to keep yourself abreast with the new skills and new knowledge. Because I have read somewhere that if you are educated yesterday, stops learning today, will be uneducated tomorrow. I never learned computer while I was studying, but had I not learned it, I would have been illiterate and not sitting in this chair. So thank you very much, ma'am. It was really nicely put. The organization's sustenance, culture, and growth depends upon the quality of top leadership management. So my question is to Ms. Sharmila ji. Please guide us on how important is leadership development in creating a strong talent pipeline within FMCD sector. Sharmila ji.
You and thank you all. It was wonderful listening to everyone. Uh, so leadership, we all know that ultimately we all are born with some qualities, some personalities, and we all have some or the other quality which is always there within us. But then there comes a department which is HR, or even your top leaders, which start understanding that there is capability and there is competency which needs to be developed. I agree with Suman, which says that we are inherited and inborn with a lot of our own qualities and the passion we bring to the job. But if we do not grow leaders within the organization, ultimately there will be a deprive of the talent. And for that, we continuously put in the effort of understanding what are the competency and capability which we can develop. I'll give you a very small example. When pandemic strike, BV is one segment of the business because we are into inspection, testing, and and certification. So the button on your shirt to the Rafale jet, the gold, silver, coal mines, the diamond mines, petroleum, or delicious meat, or the income tax department website which you use, all is tested, verified, and certified by Bureau Veritas. Everything was stopped. Hotels stopped working. And in 2019, we were running a program on transforming leadership and identifying new leaders. And then pandemic struck in 2020. Everything was closed. Our labs were closed. No inspection was going on. And can you believe the leaders whom we had trained, they came up with a program called Reskilling restart your business with Bureau Veritas, we started remote inspection by enabling the arm, which was technology, by using drones. And we started sending drones in the ships, which was stagnant in the ocean. And it was all done because it was not just that we came up with the idea, then we had people, we started remote training them, and we started working again. Similarly, in all Eros hotels or Radisson Blue, all these were tested, verified, and certified by BV again to restart after pandemic. So this all comes in when there is a vision. And I agree, when you have a vision, you also need leadership quality and strategic mindset to execute that. And how do you inculcate that, and what role do you play? So we all play that role, and we all come up with these ideas. And when I'm talking about the idea, I'm sorry, can you hear me? When I'm talking about the idea, can you believe the restart of business started with the new leader we had trained only for 8 months? So this is the power of leadership, and how do you transform your talent? That's what I like to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharmila ji. Would request other panelists if they want to add any point on this. Other panelists, if they want any point on this.
Hello, check, check. Hi, everyone. I completely second the thought. I think the leaders of tomorrow brings forward what the transformation the organization is looking forward to bring in. Your development programs of leaderships have to be well thought of. They got to be structured. There's got to be an end goal or an outcome that one wants to achieve. Um, and they can not necessarily be long drawn. Sometimes we draw them out too long enough to see the outputs, right? So I think leadership is where the culture is. Culture is where I think the make or break of every organization is. We're talking about strategic change. I think one of the oldest adage is culture eats strategy for breakfast. So if the culture is not right, especially at the leadership level, and if you don't groom the leaders right, then a massively successful organization can result also in an just about average developing company. Yeah.
Thank you, Sachin. So in one sentence, yeah, please.
If I have the permission, please. Uh, One more point which I wanted to take a leaf out of this discussion is on the situational leadership, which we were talking about. We were talking about. See, anytime, I mean, everyone has the qualities. There are only 16 personality types in the whole world, and each and every person can be, one of the 16 types, right? Yeah. So that means that the qualities are there, but as a person, from the, I mean, I'm from to the students I'm talking about, you need to also come up and take up the situation and grab those opportunities. There's no matter how many trainings we can do for developing the skills trainings on leadership and all those things, but a single important quality which stands out is the passion and the occasion on which the person can rise up to that occasion and take up the things. Things changes at that point of time. The viewpoint changes at that point of time with everyone. Yeah, thank you.
I think one thing that I always tell all my team members, and that is Zindagi na milegi dobara. Don't you dare come and say that, just because you've done an MBA, you are not okay to doing menial job. There is no job which is menial. And to get to that leadership position that you're talking about, you should have also served tea in a conference room. So I think it's important that people get that right, because passion comes from small things. It's not an injection that you take and come to work.
Sorry, I mean, we have discussed this is a quite an interesting point. Again, what I'm trying to, I mean, emphasize is 15 years before I was one of the, I was there, sitting amongst you all, and maybe, but after 10 years, any one of you could be here. So the point is, when a person joins an organization, thinking of being in an AC environment, working on only on laptops, and I mean, I'm born to do such thing only. Please understand, the person who has done it has also served tea, and it is not about tea. It is about the empathy of the job which you need to appreciate what the other person has done. Unless you do that, you will not be into the shoes or the understand the nuances of the particular department or the particular role which the person is into, and and that will lead to a certain decision making which you will not be able to take a proper decision, because you are not aware about the intricacies, or the do not have the 360-degree view of the particular situation to handle. So just to second your point here.
So, if I
Thank
can
you.
just add in
Yeah,
another
please.
point, it's an interesting thing that's come up, and obviously, when we talk about this, some one major quality that at every level that should be there is to be receptive enough, receptive for the feedbacks and the views that are coming from any direction, whether it can come from the retail frontline or it can come from the CEO, MD. Everyone should be receptive enough to understand that feedback part itself. And when you were talking about the part that no job is menial, absolutely. One organization that I clearly am fond of, my first organization, Titan Company Limited, when I started with the business stints, the leadership stint that I had, the first role that I got was I was managing the stores in Bandra West. So I had the Tanishq store, watches store, and the iPlus store. The first 2 weeks were to be a part of that retail frontline. So I worked as a salesperson at the store, selling watches, selling jewelry, selling lenses. And why was that required? The first question from my end when we were told about these things was, why is it required? I'm a management trainee. You should get me into the HR business partnering role. Why am I required to be a part of that? And I was told, Anirudh, go and be a part of it. Then when you'll come back, you'll yourself tell us. So when I got into that frontline sales role, absolutely, I could understand it from the empathy that is required. I could understand what are the different challenges that they face. And once that learning came, I could clearly give that feedback to the leadership, to the management, to understand what is the actual reality that is happening. And then that is something which clearly helped me in the HR business partnering role to help me reframe the policies accordingly and bring in more breakthrough programs, practices that can help the people. So absolutely, learning from the ground is very much important, and to be very receptive enough is very much required at depending upon doesn't depend upon whichever stage of career you are in.
Thank you, Anirudh. So I would conclude this particular question by that leadership is nothing but passion, it's an instinct, and strong leaders create strong organizations. So moving on to next question, I have a humble request to my co-panelists to kindly be precise, keeping in mind the time constraint, because many of the audience I can see they are looking at the doors, maybe looking for a lunch. So the composition of workforce in organizations is mix of generation Z, X, generation Y, and generation Z. Generation Y is called millennial, and also they are the digital natives. Generation Z are called to be born with tablet and smartphone under their arm. Their skill sets, values, and expectations are different. My question is to Mr. Anirudh again. What strategies are FMCD companies using to attract and retain millennial and Gen Z talent who often have different expectations and priorities than the previous generations?
Thanks for putting up that question. Absolutely, I feel at the moment I'm part of the younger workforce. Born in 1994, did the MBA in 2019. So much becomes important from my side to tell you what is something even I look for in the organizations. I can add in a few points. Will would want to add would want others to add more points to that. So something that I clearly look at, or the feedback from the interactions that I get from my batchmates, the juniors that I have, is clearly, is the organization providing me that learning opportunity in that environment. So when I got into the organization, the first organization, I kept on thinking, what is something new that is coming up? What is something more that I can learn? And why do I look for that? There is a notion behind it. I look for that because I know there are very much experienced people in the organization, and how can I add in value, how can I add in more points to that table when the discussion is happening? And that would absolutely come from the learning experiences that I have. So irrespective of the industry part itself, if I'm part of FMCG or retail, if I'm getting that learning from the different domains, from the different avenues, whether I'm being a part of any cross-functional team that is there, or any project that I'm doing, or any additional project that I get. So the learning that comes, absolutely, that is very much important, and it attracts the generation. The second part being, uh, how fast will my career grow? Okay. uh, we clearly seek the opportunities on how we can fast pace our careers, accelerate our careers, and keep on moving. uh, the other generations might have a viewpoint that the younger generation should spend in more time in a specific role or a project and get that learning. But we must also understand, be receptive about the fact that the learning curve has taken a different shift at this time. Right now, there are multiple technologies, the digital platforms which are available, which bring in more details, more understanding to us. Whether we talk about chat gpt, if I talk about chat gpt, so it, when I'm seeking an information, clearly gives me an information, that learning right at the palm of my hand. It's clearly available. Okay. So what is the organization, what is the avenue, what is the opportunity that the organization is providing me to fast pace my career? Okay. Or does it have any dedicated learning program, dedicated leadership program? So different organizations learn young leaders program, emerging leaders program. So can I be a part of that program? So these are from my end, these are two important things that clearly the generations look for.
I think I have to respond to Anirudh. He's really hit below the belt when he mentioned the age factor here. So, at least for you and me, I can definitely answer his, and you too? Okay. Fine. So, at least we have three of us who are ready to say we are older. My organization, we are more than 9 decades old, and therefore we have generations starting from baby boomers to Generation Z. And I think I have had the good fortune of understanding each of them separately, not just the younger ones. I think it's really not that much different, what a younger person or an older person needs. Every one of us is looking for growth. Every one of us is looking for an opportunity to be heard, to be able to have some sort of enhancement of the way they live, right? uh, the way organizations deal with different generations is what makes them or breaks them. As I said, ours is a 9 decade plus old organization, and having different generations, we have understood the art of managing expectations at different levels. The younger generation may want quick things much faster. We try to teach them patience. The older ones may find it difficult to deal with that speed. We try to teach them agility. We have a very specific, program in the organization which is reverse mentoring, and we pair up the different generations so that they learn from each other. And I think that is the way organizations are able to manage various generations. Yeah.
Can I add?
Sure, go
Thank
ahead.
you. It was well. So her organization is 9 decades. My organization is 200-year-old. So, and I have been in the organization for last 9 years. Uh, when we were trying to, so we understood, and as I said, organizations have different set of goals, and you have different set of workforce. As leaders, you need to identify, and as Simi was mentioning, reverse mentoring. You need to understand which workforce and which segment will fit at what program will be actually most successful in what kind of workforce, and how do you still create a balance, and how do you train and mentor and make sure that there is a synergy between all set of workforce which you have. This is what I would like to add. I agree, younger generation is it's just like, Google search, everything instant. But then there is younger generation which says instantly we get you certain problems which is there. For that we bring you solution, but to execute that, the senior experience comes in, and then together they have to work that journey. I would like to add this. Thank you.
So I must say one thing that, I agree with you that when I was younger and I was in advertising, there couldn't be a more younger field for a workforce to be there, because it's like a Archie school, Riverdale. You just have fun, and in that fun, you have to have work coming out. And I think we've all gone through that stage when we said, what is the organization doing to enhance my skill? And I think I feel personally that organization is not a school. They cannot have programs constantly to keep you motivated, because, that bit of learning, even you have to do. You have to bring some expertise of your own, which allows an organization to make you go somewhere. I mean, I've invested my time doing millennial marketing, not because I don't understand the mindset of the young, because I have six nieces and nephews from 15 to 27, and I know them like the back of my hand. But the point is, the reason why I feel that we need to understand what we contribute to the company before the company starts identifying you as a leader is a very important part of the job. Because, if shortcut can bring you success, then I think that formula we need to learn from. It doesn't happen. Switching jobs constantly makes you a great rolling stone, but then with that, not necessarily comes the knowledge. So, you can take your salary hike, you can keep switching jobs, but after a point, you will reach the dead end of the road when, you lack depth of knowledge and information. So I personally never look at hiring people, however young and old they are, if I see they've switched jobs every 12 months. It doesn't work for me.
Thank you. As far as my experience with the new generation goes, they are very attention seeker. They want to be heard promptly, and as goes with, like Ma'am said, that Google's and also they are more comfortable working with the digital platforms. So any organization who want to hire the young generation, I think need to be flexible, need to look into the needs of the present manpower available in the job market and accordingly shape their policies and systems. So moving on to next. Sure.
Yeah, just to add to the points it is it please don't see it is as a either or. ठीक? It is that as an organization wants each diverse set of people to be there because they have their own roles and responsibilities to play. As a company, as an organization, how we have to see is how are we creating an employee value proposition for for this set of people. There could be different needs, but again the objective is same. And I will second the point that do not expect the organization to take steps for you initially. What you can contribute to the organization is what you have to see, and the organization will respond equally to your response. So yes, and from the company point of view, an employee value proposition is required to attract and retain these both kind of talent, because the millennials, from the growth driving perspective, Gen X millennials from the experience perspective, and both blend of experience and youth are required to drive the organization. So I would again say it is never an either or, but it cannot be me first also. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So moving on to next question. We generally say the customer is king and employees are the brand ambassadors of the company. The organizations is product line and employees need to be aligned with the needs and expectation of the customer. So my question is to Mr. Sachin, how can FMCD companies ensure that their talent pipeline is aligned with the evolving needs and expectations of the customer?
Hello. Yeah, thank you for the question. So I think we spoke about passion quite a few times. That word got repeated a few times as well. When you're looking at people, I think when you're hiring people, when the talent pipelines are built, we talk about the apt skill set for the role and the desired skill set that we need for that job. Uh, I have spent about last almost a decade in startups. I think the realization is pretty clear. The passion is the underlined word. The skill set can be built. So if there is that defined passion to do right by the job, right by the brand, and right by hence the consumer. So if I have the passion for what I do, for example, if I'm an HR, if I really want to make a difference, it's not just about experience. Do I have the passion to make impact to business metrics? We spoke about really making a material difference to business metrics, really wanting to have that seat on the table. And to have that seat on the table, you got to have passion for what you do. So then hire for people who have the passion and desire to do everything that it takes to do well, and then fit them in the job roles. If they have that material passion, automatically it reflects in outcomes, passes on to your consumers, and then you have happy consumers. If people do not enjoy what they do, and if it's a 9 to 5 job, then you would not have productive outcomes, you would not have an engaged workforce, and then it automatically reflects on the experience side of things. So the way we build pipelines, we are an agri tech startup. We are solving for supply chain problem on the agriculture side. We look for people who are willing to get their hands dirty, be on the ground, irrespective the profile, the position. You got to spend time in the field, learn the business, have the aptitude and the passion to be there. If you have all of that, um, you're a good fit. Let's get those people first, understand their passion to do what they want to do, have the happiness quotient about it, and want to grow at the same time. So then you build that pipe and then you put them into buckets where you need people. Automatically, it will start reflecting in the customer experience scores, your NPS scores, all that starts showing up. That's about how we go about getting people. Just when you talk about anything you do. So if I'm pitching my organization, if you don't If that enthusiasm doesn't pass across, then you will never be bought into getting into my company. So if it's an interview, if my talent acquisition person is not able to pitch a brand right with the right intent, the passion, the desire, and the happiness that they feel within their jobs, I don't see a candidate getting sold and wanting to join. And an interview is as good as not somebody wanting to hire. It's a two-way street. There's a candidate who also feels, yaar, isko interest nahi hai, to should I join this company? The first question should never be, are you looking for a job? Have a chat, talk for 5 minutes, understand how they are, what they do, where they come from. In the bargain, if they are looking for a job, fantastic. What you gain from that conversation is still a network, a connect, and maybe a friend for life. So that's how we approach our conversation. We talk to so many people, whether we are hiring or not. One thing I can tell you, we have a very strong network, right? So that's about how we build pipelines.
Thank you. Thank you, Sachin. Would you like to add, ma'am? Okay, so moving on to next question. Technical and soft skills of the human resources are important for internal and external growth of the organization. So my next question is to Mr. Prateek. How can FMCD companies balance the need for both technical and soft skills in their talent pipeline? And what are some effective ways to develop these skills? To Prateek.
Thank you, sir. Uh, b- uh, Hello. Yeah. Before I take up this topic, uh, technical and soft skills. I would like to dwell upon one. I mean, take one step back and understand why. First of all, why it is required. So, in the complete aspect of the thing, which the keynote speakers also talked about, uh, change being the constant. So, understand in whole process, customer is at the center. Today's customer is knowledgeable, as you all are, right? They are informed. Whatever you are trying to buy, you have the complete understanding about the technical specifications, features, analysis, benefits, everything. Do it, and search along, and then you have made an opinion about a particular brand or particular thing to be bought, and hence you are making a very informed decision, right? So once the customer is so so informed and technically equipped and technically strong, and then has a complete understanding, so does the company also has to be agile enough to respond to that particular situation. So in that sense, now I will try to talk about the soft skills and the technical skills with it. So once it is like then I talk about the roles and responsibilities, and on basis this. So once the technical part of the of the thing products. So my team also needs to be very much technically equipped to explain these customer about the benefits, features of my product, and also a softer aspect of the handling the customers. So my people who are my face of the company to the customer side has to have both technically strong also, and as well as we have this requisite soft skills to handle the customer queries and handle the customers. Now coming to the certain roles which are like support functions, support systems, backend. I'll talk about the extreme research and development. This set of people's domain is more technical. I cannot afford to have a technically weak person as in the R&D, and talk about more softer skills part of the to the R&D. So technical and soft skills are both it is a paradigm, it has to be balanced out, and degree of technical versus soft skill depend upon the roles and responsibilities. Also, as an organization, certain interventions are taken and certain programs are there, but also very important is, again, I'm telling you, uh, do not expect each and everything from the company first, please. You have been hired amongst thousands who have been not hired. So there are requisite qualities in you for which you have been taken into the any organization for that matter. So a proactiveness is one thing which has to come from the other side, and reciprocating that proactiveness is what the organization do. And organization always do have regular trainings and all those, but it may not be very customized to your requirement. It cannot be very tailor made to your requirement, but you have to start taking leaf out of all these things. So now talking about certain how to bridge that gap basically. Uh, so one of the foremost thing which organization do is to have the really the competency matrix for each role and responsibilities. So whatever role and responsibilities you are in, for that there are certain competencies, both technical as well as behavioral competencies are required to fulfill that job. And the proficiency of those competencies depending upon the level or the the seniority which your role demands. So for example, in the sales function, the people who are into sales function could have different set of competencies which are required by the organization, and organization do map those people on those competencies at the time of interview also, and try to see how close that person is to that competency. We never look at 100% match. They never ये तो शादी में भी नहीं होता. So forget about organization and the so
Pratik ji, thoda kindly short
हाँ
the
sir,
question.
बस. So competency is one thing which is there. Continuous learning company can enable the learning management systems for you. But you say कि अब हमने प्लेटर दे दिया है, अब स्पून लेके मैं आपको खिलाऊं, that also does not work. So certain amount of thing has to come from the people, you and me. I need to be proactive for that. So platforms can be built. Platforms are there by the company. Learning management systems are there. Understand your requirement. Go through those modules. Self-learn those modules. So this is how the skills can be bridged. You cannot have the skills. You cannot have a situation where now I have a requisite skill. Now I can go to a work. No, it is always ongoing. It is always ongoing. It is always on the job. It is always how much you want to take out of it from the organization, and this is how the organization also responds to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik ji. Thanks a lot, panelists, for your valuable inputs and sharing your knowledge, thoughts, and experience with us. Since time is short, let's move on to question and answer session from the audience. Open to the house. If you have any question, you may ask any other panelists, please. Please help with the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Smita Lavanya, and as you all know, I'm the student of Jaipuria Institute of Management. My question from you is, What are some specific strategies for developing a robust talent pipeline in the FMCG and FMCD sector, particularly in the light of changing industry trends and increasing demands uh, for digital and technological expertise?
Uh, Simenji, would you like to answer?
Okay, thank you so much for this question. There are several, strategies in which organizations build a talent pipeline. Succession planning is one of them. Understanding what are the critical roles and figuring out where that talent pipeline is to be built is the first step. Second is, of course, understanding what are the competencies and skill sets required as your organization is growing. So, what is the skills of the future, and then trying to develop your people around that. So it's a matter of build, borrow, or buy. So if you have adequate manpower and if you are able to train them, that is how you're building in a talent pipeline. If you don't, then you either buy, that is get from outside, or you borrow, that is have consultants sort of come in and do the job for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Any more question? Yes, please, there. We will take one more question hereafter.
Hello, I am Nandini Saxena and I am first year student of Jaipuria Institute of Management. My question is, how is the HR department dealing with the layoffs, which is in the current trend? And is it right to say it is creating a distrust among the top professionals? How will they be retained in the future?
Mr. Anirudh, would you like to take this question? Yeah, please, Sachin.
Hello. Yeah, I think it's a great question. Considering the current times, I think the macro situation has impacted multiple industries, massive layoffs across the board. We've seen biggest brand names in the industry laying off, right? So, how does the HR fraternity, we as a group deal with it? I think one of the hindsight learnings have been don't hire if you're not sure. If you don't have forecasting and planning for next at least 3 quarters, don't rampantly go ahead and hire people, because a lot of companies work on the aspects of on season and off season. During on season, truckload of people are onboarded. Come the off season, they're asked to move out. Now, it's very, very critical that people focus on gross margins, net margins, profitability. But in that journey to gallop, uh, unfortunately, people and humans become a scapegoat of certain unpredictable business scenarios. So, I think one of the lessons I have learned from my journeys with massive brands like Snapdeal, Cars24, that you have to be very clear about your, if not 3 quarter plans, and then you build your hiring pipeline and projections. So, as an HR, if somebody comes and tells you, please hire 100 people, you got to ask 5 questions: where, why, what are they going to do, where will these people value add to business? And if you're getting the right answers, then add that position to the requisition. So every HR leader has the right to ask these questions before you just open the position, because some business leaders said, I need 30 people in next 10 days. Right? So if you have that level clarity, a projection, case on hiring, then the hiring becomes more prudent. People come in, they know what they are supposed to do, and their journeys are far smoother. So HR teams have to be far more robust in asking these questions right up front, because either side of the bargain, getting the guy in and letting the guy go, the gatekeeper is an HR.
Just adding, Sachin, to what you said,
Yep.
the question that you've asked, actually, the layoffs that have happened, you would have noticed they have been majorly with technology giants. And I would say one certain thing that I think we did, or what was happening was not just mismanagement of expectations of what the number of manpower was to be, but also a certain greed of hoarding talent. At that time, when the tech was at a boom after, during COVID, and everybody was everybody was expecting the businesses to really grow fast. Really, nobody expected it to taper down to and normalize as quickly as within 2 years. So what happened was you suddenly ramped up the manpower and suddenly had to, think of the bottom line and do away with them. Traditional, organizations, you see the Tatas, or our organization, for example, traditional organizations didn't do that. So I would feel a conservative traditional approach, not just to forecasting, but also ramping up or scaling down manpower is very important. We deal with people after all. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Simanji. So it was a very thought-provoking and enriching discussion. Needless to say, even I have many takeaways from this session. To share a few, it's not the machine or technology, but the quality of human resources, which is more important for organizational growth and driving strategic change in the organization. Carefully designed and well thought out approach and talent strategy with action plan for attracting suitable talent from diverse sources, talent acquisition, upskilling and developing employees, retention of drivers, and competitive compensation and benefits go a long way in developing talent pipeline in the sector. And finally, succession planning for critical positions in an organization must be a continuous process. So friends, it's time for me to conclude. I'm sure you all enjoyed this panel discussion. Once again, I extend my heartiest gratitude to all my distinguished panelists, audience, and the management of Jaipuria Institute of Management for organizing such a wonderful event today. Thank you so much. Thank you.
An extremely insightful discussion regarding developing talent pipeline in FMCG and FMCD. I now request Dr. Devendra Narang, Director, Jaipuria Institute of Management, to felicitate the guests. First of all, Mr. Prateek Rastogi. Huge round of applause, please. Ms. Simin Askari. Ms. Suman Verma. Dr. Nirmal Singh Rana. Ms. Sharmila Thakur Sharma. Mr. Anirudh Narayan. And Mr. Sachin Tiwari. I thank you all for being with us for the day. Thank you so much. You can keep it.